Coming up, a whole lot of sitting still on FAA reauthorization, getting crooked in a Sabreliner, a new spaceship, and a seaplane getaway to New England you're not going to want to miss. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment. Now it's hurry up and wait. Hello everyone and welcome to AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haynes. Melissa's on assignment and serving on the Next Gen Advisory Committee. Well, last week the FAA Reauthorization Bill seemed like it was on a fast track as the Transportation Committee voted on a mostly partisan basis to send it out to the House. But nothing happened this week. The Inside Washington publication Politico reports the bill has been pulled off the floor for more changes. That to try to get more support. Democrats and the Appropriations Committees of both houses oppose it. Politico says the Senate Commerce Committee is gearing up to roll out its own bill in a couple of weeks, a bill that would not privatize air traffic control. The FAA Reauthorization Bill sets funding and priorities for the agency. The proposed House bill includes third-class medical reform and simplification of certification rules. Good things from our point of view. But most onerous, it puts user fees on some segments of general aviation. That's unacceptable.
Our rule is no user fees on general aviation, period.
The current legislation authorizing the FAA expires at the end of March. The talk on the Hill now is of a short-term extension of about 3 months while Congress continues to work on the new reauthorization. The startup that is disrupting the aircraft rental world is gaining strength. You may remember Open Airplane, the company which allows pilots to get a once-a-year checkout and then rent the same make and model aircraft anywhere in the network through an app. Investors have bought into the idea. The company says they have received a $500,000 seed round of funding. Company co-founder Rod Rakic says it's a shot in the arm.
Open Airplane closed a seed round with some investors both here and abroad to give us the ability to really accelerate what we're doing. So we started the company with the idea that we could make everyone's pilot certificate more valuable. And we've bootstrapped this far. We started in June of 2013, which is 6 locations. We now have 94 operators online in the system. We're continuing to grow that. We've just crossed 10,000 pilots signed up to fly with us.
You can learn more at openairplane.com. Well, the Sporties Foundation is working to ensure a strong GA community in the future. The foundation just announced that in 2015 they gave away over $150,000 to aviation programs and organizations. The largest grant supported the Young Eagles Next Step initiative. Next Step allows youth to access free flight training resources as a follow-up to their Young Eagles flight. Find out more at sportiesfoundation.org. Meanwhile, the Air Safety Institute wants to see you in person. ASI now has a new season of in-person training seminars ready to go. For the spring, it's on how to handle emergencies. Program Manager John Collins says it's a powerful learning tool.
It will take you through some of the common emergencies. It also give you an idea of what's an emergency versus what's just abnormal and needs to be dealt with.
The safety seminars qualify for credit with the FAA Wings program as well as AOPA's Accident Forgiveness. Find one near you at airsafetyinstitute.org. And speaking of learning to be a safer pilot, AOPA's Dave Hirschman got some hands-on safety training. He had a chance to take an upset recovery course in Mojave, California.
It's a view pilots don't expect to see from the left seat of a corporate jet. This Sabreliner is in a steep bank at a critically low airspeed and getting close to an aerodynamic stall. In the right seat, Rick Searfoss, a former NASA Space Shuttle commander, hands over the controls.
Your controls, fly out of it. Controls.
Searfoss teaches the upset recovery course at Flight Research, a California firm that uses real jets, not simulators, to give professional pilots hands-on experience recovering from unusual attitudes.
Not only does the simulator not act like an airplane, but there's no emotion to it. You get upside down in a real airplane, there's emotion to it. You will never forget how to do it.
The 2 or 3 day courses include a classroom review of accidents caused by loss of aircraft control, as well as high altitude and high speed aerodynamics in situations that can cause inadvertent departures.
If you're flying along and you get in an upset condition and you haven't been trained for it, instinctively, most of the time, you will do the wrong thing.
To teach pilots to do the right things, Flight Research teaches a universal recovery procedure that uses the acronym UTAP: unload, throttle, ailerons, pitch.
So let's say you find yourself in a business jet and you're slightly on your back, something like that, a wake encounter or something like that, and these things have happened, and you want to recover and you haven't had training. Your first skill is going to be pull. Well, as you and I know, if you pull from right here, what's going to happen? Nose is going to come down. So that's the kind of habits that we try and train pilots out of.
Flight Research uses aircraft with performance similar to the ones their clients fly professionally. To them, it doesn't make sense to use a light aerobatic aircraft.
It's like trying to teach someone to drive a Mack truck by training them in a Corvette. Entirely different.
The second and optional third instructional flights take place in an Aramaki Impala, a 2-seat former military jet that looks nothing like any corporate airplane.
My favorite quotes from one of our students is they were pleasantly surprised with the Impala's lack of performance. So it looks fast, it's not. It's kind of heavy on the controls, and it acts much more like a large aircraft.
My final maneuver in the Impala was nothing I ever expected to see in a jet, a tail slide.
Let it go. Okay, it's going to go on its back. Let it go. Let it go. And we got one overshoot, and then it's settled in, and then just pull the pull out.
The tail slide demonstrates the airplane's inherent stability and eagerness to recover from even extreme upsets. According to Flight Research, upset recovery training is more important now than ever because of the aviation industry's increasing reliance on automation.
It tends to whittle away at some of your hand flying skills, and that's what we want to do, is bring that back up.
For the team at Flight Research, it's all about building pilot skills and awareness.
Quick roll.
But one of the most rewarding times is when you get the phone call from a guy and he calls you up and says, "Hey Gomez, I was flying, I was climbing out behind a 7-4 one day, I found myself in a wake upset and I remembered your training, I remembered UTAP, and recovered the airplane and saved people." And there's just no better feeling in the world to know that you not only added to somebody's training and made them a better professional, but actually helped save lives.
Dave Hirschman, AOPA Live.
Thanks, Dave. Looks like some fascinating flying. You can learn more about Flight Research in the March Turbine edition of AOPA Pilot Magazine. Well, coming up after the break, a slew of new air and spacecraft and relaxing in New England to celebrate an aviation pioneer. You're watching AOPA Live this week.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever. But to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. If you haven't registered your drone yet, you might consider getting on it. An FAQ online, the FAA says that they can register a civil penalty up to $27,500 for failure to register. The deadline was last week. We'll see if anyone gets slapped with a fine. Welcome Spaceship Unity to the universe. Nearly 2 years after its first spaceship was lost in an accident, Virgin Galactic rolled out Virgin Spaceship Unity. It's a 2-pilot, 6-passenger spaceship. It's designed to take people 62 miles above the planet. Some 700 people have signed up to slip the surly bonds of Earth. Are you ready? And some positive news about general aviation for the mainstream media. CNN.com has a piece that looks at some of the new aircraft being developed. The Icon A5 and the Cobalt Valkyrie are featured, as is Burt Rutan's Ski Gull. If you'd like to read about it, head to CNN.com and search Sky Pioneers. Sonex Aircraft has 2 models out this week. The popular home-built Sonex and the YX now have B models. They include a roomier cabin and bigger fuel tank. Orders are being taken now. And progress on a new helicopter. Robinson is taking orders for the new R-44 Cadet. The chopper is similar to the R-44 Raven, but the rear seats have been removed for a cargo area. The engine is derated, extending the time between overhaul by 200 hours. The weight is a lot lower, which the company thinks will provide better high-altitude performance. Now, helicopters like the R-44 would not be possible if it weren't for inventor Igor Sikorsky. AOPA's Julie Walker had a chance to learn about Sikorsky firsthand from his grandson.
Deep in the north woods of Maine, we discovered the grandson of the inventor of the helicopter, Igor Sikorsky III. Igor hosts Sikorsky Weekend each year at Bradford camps. Remote, beautiful, rustic, idyllic, the camps deserve every superlative you can think of.
This Sikorsky Weekend that my father and I have put on together is really an informal time to enjoy the North Maine woods with a 2 or 3 hour slideshow presentation over the course of a couple of days to get a taste of what my grandfather's life was like.
The younger Sikorsky reveres his grandfather, remembers a gentleman, and marvels at his accomplishments.
Of course, my grandfather everybody knows him as the inventor, the designer of the helicopter, the man who proved that it could be done, but also, more importantly, proved that you could build a helicopter that was worth flying.
Young Sikorsky shares his grandfather's years in Russia and his early years in the United States as a nearly penniless immigrant with big ideas. He goes on to talk about how Sikorsky's ideas turned into historic inventions and how Sikorsky contributed to an incredible period in aviation history.
And my grandfather was born in 1889, 14 years before the Wright brothers flew. And he lived to meet Neil Armstrong after he walked on the moon. It's just a remarkable amount of work that happened during that short span.
Rich with original photographs and drawings and artifacts, Sikorsky Weekend is a unique way to look at one of aviation's greats. Julie Walker, AOPA Live.
Sign me up. Thanks, Julie. You can learn more about the Bradford camps in Maine by visiting bradfordcamps.com. And all this coming week, AOPA.org is taking you on a getaways like the Sikorsky Weekend. Online Associate Editor David Tula says you won't want to miss it.
We've got a great week on AOPA.org coming up. We've got getaways for pilots that are thinking about their spring break. We're going to be able to tell you about several destinations we've sent editors to, and you're going to love it.
There are 8 days of great getaway content starting Monday. And now we're going to get away. Join us next week for another look at the latest in general aviation. For Melissa Rudinger and the entire crew, I'm Tom Haynes. See you next week.